They say that teachers are the backbone of our society, helping nurture and guide our kids, instilling values and morals into them that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives. In other words, they're supposed to be role models, right? Well, what happens when the people you trust to educate your kids are sneaky little thieves? I'm Joy Paris, and this is For the Love of Money. Today, we're covering the stories of 3 absolutely selfish teachers who decided to steal from students. Our first story happened in 2019 when a 47-year-old teacher by the name of Sharonda Johnson decided that she was going to take $2,500 from at least 9 of her students. Now, you might be wondering, how in the world did all of these students have that kind of money on them while they were at school? I think the most amount of money I was personally able to take to school was like $4. That was it, $4. Well, here's the thing. Sharonda was collecting money for a competition field trip. She took about $100 to $400 from each student. Harmless, right? Well, at the very last moment, she started making up excuses, giving different reasons to different kids as to why they couldn't go on this field trip anymore. By the way, I should add that this story happens in Florida. Some students were told that the trip was canceled, and other students were told that they weren't ready for this competition and they shouldn't go. Now, as a parent hearing this, you'd probably be like, okay, fine, but where's the money that we paid? Hundreds of dollars. Well, Sharonda told the parents and the students that they would be getting their money back. But of course, that never happened. Now, the school had a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper was not told that these kids paid for this trip. Quite naturally, parents started complaining to the school, and an investigation started.
I don't wish for anything bad to happen to her, just if she can return the money that she took.
For Aide Nuno, giving her daughter $400 was a big decision, but important to her.
I agreed because it was the class she really liked, so we agreed that she could go on the field trip.
And would you believe that Miss Sharonda allegedly told 2 of the students that if anyone asked anything about this money, to say that they didn't know anything. She even told one of them to say you don't remember. The most ridiculous part about this story is that Sharonda Johnson was a criminal justice teacher. Story number 2 comes from Florida. Florida, what is happening exactly? What is happening over there with you guys? Please, somebody tell me in the comments. This story is pretty recent, and the teacher was actually caught on camera. So there's no surprise that the guy just pled guilty and saved everyone the headache and the paperwork. So sometime around October 2022, a student at William Dwyer High School noticed his money was missing from his school bag, which he left inside of the boys' locker room while he was at gym class. Now, this was the last straw, because it wasn't the first time, it wasn't the second, it was the 3rd time that money was missing from his backpack while he was in gym class. But how could this happen? The locker room is supposed to be locked and secured. You know, I don't know about you guys, but whenever I lose money, I always second guess myself. Or maybe I left it in my desk. Maybe I left it in the last pair of pants that I wore. I can only imagine that it probably was the same for this kid. I mean, there's no way someone is actually gaining access to these lockers and actually going into his bag to steal his money. Well, on the 3rd occasion, he places a video recording device into his backpack. And honestly, I really want to know what exactly he used so I can buy it. Because how did the teacher not notice it was there? Anyway, so he puts the recording device into his backpack, and who do we see entering his bag, going through all of the compartments, checking for money, but the newly appointed crisis intervention teacher. Yes, you heard me right. Crisis intervention teacher, Mr. Matthew Choka. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. I'm just going to call you Matt. Now, I can only imagine the absolute shock on this kid's face, looking back at the footage, seeing that the perpetrator is his own teacher. So what does he do? He takes the footage to a coach, and the coach sets up his own camera and catches Matt several times. Matt has his own key. That's how he's getting into this locker room, entering several bags looking for money. Oh boy. So with all of this evidence, Matt confesses to the crime, and he probably confessed to a bit more than he should have. So Matt confesses that he stole $60 from the student in our story. He also says that he has been doing this for a long time. Now, why in the world would you say that? Why would you admit that? Willingly. So this guy ruins his long-standing career over a couple of bucks. I mean, truly, we don't know how much he actually stole, but it couldn't have been that much. And what was the motive besides greed? Well, he says that he really needed the money for gas. I mean, I would have just shut up and not said anything. Anyway, y'all, because Matt pled guilty, he was able to completely avoid jail time. They just gave him 6 months probation and some community service. Moving right along. So our last story is so despicable. Honestly, when I first heard about it, it angered me to my core. This teacher didn't actually steal from her own students, but this might actually be even worse. You guys are gonna want to buckle up for this story because there are some twists and some turns. The year is 2007, and two precious little boys, ages 8 and 5, would tragically lose their father after a long battle with brain cancer. This is absolutely heartbreaking. As someone who's lost a parent to cancer, I can certainly empathize. Mike Mortensen was in the Navy, but he started developing seizures, which led to a medical discharge. He fought for a really long time and was only 36 years old when he died. Mike had a $100,000 life insurance policy, and he knew that his time was coming to an end. So what did he do? He decided to leave that money as a nest egg for his two boys, Magnus and Javen. But here's the thing. He didn't want them to have access to the money until they were 18 years old. This is totally understandable. And he specifically said that the money was to be used for a down payment on the house, for college, or for a wedding, expecting that that money would accrue over the years. Mike did not want anyone to know about this little nest egg he left for his boys. He didn't want the boys to know. And he didn't even want his ex-wife to know. Instead, he decided that the one person he could trust with that amount of money was his best friend since childhood, Stacie Bement. And so, the account was created. Jerry became the custodian of that account, and Mike sadly passes away, and so everyone tragically has to move on without him. Fast forward 8 years later. The year is now 2015. Magnus and Javen are now teenagers. They, along with their mom, Billy, end up meeting Jerry, who's a teacher, by the way, and his wife, Stacie, at a restaurant. And it is at this restaurant that they are formally told that they have this inheritance that their dad has left for them, along with the way in which the money is to be used. The boys obviously loved their dad, and just knowing that he was still looking out for them and giving them a head start in life after all these years must have added another layer of respect and admiration that they had towards him. Jerry and Stacie gave them account statements, remember that, and all the other information that they would need about this account. At the time, the boys still weren't 18, so it would be another 2 years when Magnus becomes of age that he goes to the bank with those documents to get his share of the money, $50,000, for college. Now imagine the shock on his face when the bank tells him no such account existed. So he tells his mom what happened at the bank, and now everyone's confused because that doesn't make sense. Something isn't right. Maybe they went to the wrong bank. Maybe they're supposed to go to some special part of the bank to deal with things like this. Well, quite expectedly, Billy, the boy's mom, goes to Jerry, the dad's best friend, and tells him what Magnus just told her happened at the bank. The thing is, Jerry's confused. He doesn't know what she's talking about. He's like, you know what, don't worry. I'm gonna get in touch with the bank. I'll figure it out and I'll let you know. But that was the last time Billy heard from Jerry. That's right. Radio silence after that. Never told her what happened when he tried to contact the bank. Nothing. So obviously, guys, something fishy is happening here. So of course, Billy goes to the police. The police investigation revealed that it was none other than Stacie Bement, who worked for 22 years as a special education teacher, who had been forging her husband Jerry's signature to transfer money from the boys' account to her own personal account. She started doing this only 1 year after Mike lost his life. What type of person takes money from an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, their inheritance money that their father, who lost his life to cancer, left for them? What type of person does something like that? Stacie did this from 2008 until 2012. So you know what that means. When she and her husband had that meeting, the one in 2015 with the boys and their mom, there was no money left. She wiped their accounts clean. So some of you guys might be thinking, Joy, what do you mean no money was left? She showed them bank statements, account details. Where's that money? Where did that money go? All of that, all those documents were all fake. F-A-K-E, fake, including her. How in the world did she actually think she was gonna get away with this? In what world was she gonna get away with this? Did she think, they're probably just gonna blame the bank? Crazy. And you know something? The mom, Billy, recalls seeing Stacie and Jerry's Facebook updates showing their family going on vacations, their kids having things she could never afford to give her own kids. And she said it hurts looking back on those things, knowing that all the vacations and all the fancy hobbies, all of these things were probably supported and funded using the boys' own inheritance money. Now, I think the question that should be on everyone's mind, it certainly is on mine, is whether Jerry had anything to do with this scheme. How could he have not noticed that his wife's spending habits had increased? Did he not check the boys' accounts not one time? Not even a little curiosity to see how much it had increased by over all those years? Nothing? And why, after Billy inquired about Magnus's very odd, very bizarre trip at the bank, did he ghost her? Well, shockingly, the police believe that he had absolutely nothing to do with the missing money, and he was never charged. Stacie initially said that she was innocent, but with all of the evidence stacked against her, she eventually pled guilty to forgery and theft as part of a plea deal. The plea deal says that she must repay the full amount that she stole from the boys. Stacie said that she intended on paying the money back, but before she knew it, too much time had passed and too much money had been spent. She was way in over her head, so she chose to lie and deceive the boys right in front of their faces. I have absolutely zero sympathy for this lady. I'm so sorry. In the end, and as part of her plea deal, she only served 180 days in jail and she got probation. I do not want to hear another story about teachers stealing from kids, teachers stealing from students. When I was doing my research, I was actually shocked by how many of these stories there were. If you guys want a part 2, 3, 4, 10 of this series, I can do it. That's how many stories I was able to find. There is an ongoing debate about whether or not teachers are well paid in the United States, but this certainly does not justify stealing from your own students. It may or may not come as a shock to you that some of the perpetrators in this video actually received some sympathy from people in the public eye. This is my very first video, so if you made it to the end, pat yourselves on the back. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video, and please comment any video ideas you have, anything that you want to see that's financial crime related. I am happy to look into it and happy to do it for you guys. Mwah. See you next time.